Hello everyone! Today we are going to talk about extensive reading. In some of my previous sessions, I have already mentioned reading skills and how to develop them. In this session, we are going to talk about extensive reading and how you can benefit from extensive reading. So in this session, we are going to talk about what extensive reading is, what the benefits of extensive reading are, and how you can introduce it into your everyday life. Let's get started. My name is Julia Demi. I'm a Cambridge certified teacher trainer and a course designer. First things first, let's understand what extensive reading stands for. Extensive reading has particular features which are different to those that usually happen in the typical English classroom. And today we are going to talk about them. The first characteristic which I would like to mention is that extensive reading stands for enjoyable reading for pleasure, something what doesn't really need any motivation because you already have one. It should be an enjoyable experience, and the material that you want to read is purely selected by you, not by anyone else, only by you, which means you become an independent learner. You become more independent, which is great. As you know, reading can be a tedious experience for many students, and since early childhood, many children don't really like this activity due to their bad experience at school or probably further at the university, and this extensive reading was kind of a torture, not a pleasure. Why, you might ask? Just because the choice was not made by you, but by other people. Teachers, educators, and those people who thought what would be good for you to read, but they didn't think what might be enjoyable for you to read. And all these things might lead to kind of subjective attitude to extensive reading, reading outside of the classroom, reading for pleasure, voluntary reading, as you like. Day and BAMFORD encapsulated the principles of extensive reading in 10 tenets. Let's have a look at them. The first one is the reading material is easy. You read when you understand what you read. When there are a lot of words that you don't know, you can easily give up on reading. The second principle is a huge variety of material should be available to the reader so that you can pick something up to your taste. The third principle is learners choose what they want to read. The fourth principle is learners read as much as possible. The fifth principle stands for general understanding, exposure to new material, engaging material. The purpose of reading is to enjoy the process, to enjoy the information, and to expand overall knowledge. The sixth principle is reading is its own reward. You don't need a mark or evaluation. Reading is just an enjoyable process that is a reward so far. The seventh principle of extensive reading is it is usually a faster reading experience, and the reading speed is usually faster than slower. The eighth principle is reading is individual and silent. When you read extensively, you usually read in silence in order to ease your comprehension. The ninth principle is teachers orient their students and guide them. For example, I can pick the book. I like the book The Culture Map. I can mention this book when I have a lesson with my students. I can share with them my experience and whether I liked it or not and how I benefited from it. Which leads us logically to the 10th principle, where the teacher is the model, the role model of a reader. And if you see that your educator or the person you admire shares some materials or some book, you are more likely to read it. Unfortunately, extensive reading is underestimated in many institutions. These days, teachers underuse extensive reading, giving their preference to grammar and speaking activities. However, we shouldn't forget about positive effects of extensive reading, such as expansion of the vocabulary, the sentence structure, the bottom-up, top-down processing, and many other things which help us enhance our language skills. And now let's talk about the benefits of extensive reading. First of all, I want to mention that there is researchers came to the conclusion that both L1 and L2 users, the mother tongue users and those who are learning, let's say, English or any other language and reading this language, both groups can benefit from extensive reading. Learners who engage in extensive reading are usually more motivated in their learning process. And this may be due to the fact that extensive reading promotes autonomy. The second benefit that I have already mentioned is the expansion of vocabulary. Extensive reading positively affects your vocabulary, and when you have an exposure to one word over 15 times, you are more likely to retrieve this information or this word and probably even use it in the future. The overall quality of your vocabulary is improving while extensive reading. Some researchers have found out that extensive reading has positive effect on writing abilities and grammar acquisition. Cognitive models of learning suggest that cognitive input is something what is required in order to acquire the language. In other words, we need a great deal of exposure to some input in order to acquire the language. And extensive reading can help with it perfectly well. Extensive reading not only supports reading skills development, but also overall linguistic proficiency. And the most important thing is, you need to be aware of the benefits of extensive reading. If you're a teacher, expose your students to the information, what the benefits are, and how it can help them in the future, because extensive reading positively affects the bunch of different skills, transitive skills, that students can apply in their life. I hope that this video was helpful. If you found it helpful, your thumbs up would be highly appreciated, and if you don't want to miss any video like this, hit the bell button and I will be very happy to see you in my next video. Bye!